So I'm very excited about LinkedIn at the moment because LinkedIn is the largest B2B platform in the world, and it's the highest value social network right now, because where else can you connect with other people that own businesses and other people that are high up decision makers in corporate jobs, and maybe convert them or build them into your network, or potentially sell your product to them. In terms of AI, I don't know so much about AI, but I know a lot about marketing and growth marketing. So I'm going to talk more about that, and then we can work out how growth marketing can work for your AI product. So yeah, let me get started. Firstly, who am I? I run the Copy Space, a lead generation agency. I started Traffic and Copy, which is a Facebook group with 20,000 members, and I now travel while running two companies. So the reason I started my business was so that I could kite surf and travel around the world. When I was about 16, 17, I was good in school. I was always good in school. And then when I was 16, 17, I started kite surfing, and I started to hate school. And all I wanted to do was run a business and travel the world. It was a lot harder than I expected. It took a lot of hard work before I got to this point. It took 2 or 3 years of just working in London, not really having much of a social life. But I'm actually 22 years old, and now I get to travel the world kite surf, and I still work hard, but I love what I do for work. I spent a couple of days in an office, working in an office, like my first or my only proper job that I've had, and I hated it because I was working for someone else's business, and I got out of it as quickly as I could and as quickly as I could afford to, because I wanted to start my own thing and travel. So this is also me, this is me kite surfing, and I probably spend, when I'm in England, a few hours a week kite surfing, most of my time working, and then when I travel, the balance can be 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week kite surfing, the rest of the time working, so I can still work a full work week. And then if I go somewhere really special, this is in Spain, I might spend 30 hours in a week kite surfing and a lot less time working, and I've had to put the processes into my business to make this work. Sorry for those of you that don't like blood, I usually tell people, but too late. About 4 or 5 years ago, I was flown home in a wheelchair from Brazil. This was in 2015, so 3 years ago, sorry about my maths. My business wasn't running to a point where I could afford to just jump on the next flight home, afford the medical bills. I was in Brazil when this happened, and I really got stuck. And this was a big turning point for my business, because before I was working for a very low-paid copywriting job. My background is copywriting, traveling the world, and then when this injury happened, I had to empty my bank account to come home. And it was like being stuck at square one, back in my mum's house, back working from my mum's living room. And that is where I learned a lot of my growth hacks at this time, about 3 years ago, because I didn't have money and I had to innovate how I was going to get my product out there. So since then, I've met 2 mentors that taught me how to write cold emails and how to write copy, and now my client results have been really good since then. So I've helped some of my clients get 30 sales meetings in a week using LinkedIn, and this has really helped them generate a lot of revenue. If you've got 30 sales meetings coming in every single week, that's enough to keep 2 salespeople busy and closing clients on the phone, and they really weren't spending much money at all on this. No paid advertising, no SEO, they were just coming in through LinkedIn and sending out cold emails, which I'm going to get into in a bit. I helped an Instagram marketing agency get a 70% response rate from cold emails. So for every 10 emails they sent out, they got 7 people back interested in hiring them and paying for their services. I run my lead generation agency, the Copy Space, where I have 2,000 plus hours of lead generation experience. Started Traffic and Copy, as you guys know, and I helped a software company. This is going to be very relevant to you guys because people in AI very often start up SaaS companies. So
can you explain what SaaS means?
Yes, software as a service companies. So these are online platforms. I prefer B2B. Do you guys understand the difference between B2B and B2C? Is that something that
business to business or business to customer? Okay, business to business is when I sell to corporates, to banks, to Mastercard, Microsoft, big clients. B2C is when I sell to everyone, to the customers.
So Instagram is B2C because me and you use Instagram to connect with our families and friends. LinkedIn is B2B because business people use it to connect. Computers, you can have B2B, computers are both actually, because computers will sell to other companies and they'll also sell to consumers. So a lot of people in AI will grow up to create SaaS companies. If that's the start of kind of company you want to grow, that's a really good idea. They're really good because they are high volume, high profit margin, because you don't have large operational costs. So to scale up from 1,000 customers to 10,000 customers doesn't cost you much more, because you're just developing software and selling that software on a monthly deal. So those kinds of companies really excite me. And I'll be interested to see what you guys are creating around SaaS and around software platforms for businesses. So these are just a couple of testimonials, a couple of people I've helped. The guy at the top runs a very old school business. So this LinkedIn stuff isn't just for techies and startups. Some kind of manufacturing company, and he got £5,500 worth of contract value every month just using LinkedIn, and he's just a couple of employees strong, didn't have much money to invest in marketing. Charlotte below, she has a flower subscription business, and she was selling flower subscription to businesses, and she was getting clients from LinkedIn and cold email as well. And just to give you an idea of the scale of what LinkedIn and emails can do for your business, this is Raymond. He sent out an email to a $100 billion company and got a sales meeting with them. So if you've got an AI product that can help maybe some of the FTSE 100 companies, some of the biggest companies in the UK, then you can connect with them using cold email and LinkedIn, and it doesn't cost very much. Because some of you guys can code as well, it might not cost you anything. I can't code myself, and so I have to pay a lot for software, whereas if you can code, you've got a huge step up compared to most other growth hackers. All of these companies here, you might not have heard of all of them. The NHS has responded to my cold emails and booked sales meetings with some of my clients. Salesforce was a company built off the back of LinkedIn and cold email. Bannatyne Gym, Charlotte, who was selling flowers, got Bannatyne Gym as a customer from sending them a cold email, or at least one of their chains. And all of these companies have either responded to, hired, or sent cold emails themselves. So I'm going to go into what it takes to grow your business using LinkedIn. It's quite techie stuff. If you miss some of the stuff, don't worry about taking notes, but get the slides off me afterwards, and that will help you a lot more. After I go through the LinkedIn stuff, I want to talk about the fundamentals of sales, marketing, and growth hacking. So I'm going to go into the advanced stuff first, because I want to get it out of the way, and then I want to talk about the stuff that I really want to get through to you guys just before we finish. And then I want to do a lot of questions, because I'm not quite sure how this will apply to the businesses you want to grow in future or to where you're at right now. So questions and answers will be amazing. And I think there'll be a lot more value in the Q&A for all of us here than it will be in just these slides. So LinkedIn. LinkedIn has the highest average household income as a social media platform than any other social media platform around. So whatever you're selling, LinkedIn can be a really good channel to get sales, get customers, and get money, basically. So how does LinkedIn work? It's nice and simple. You set up your profile, and you don't need to set up a business profile to do it. You set up your own personal profile. All you need to do is connect with decision makers who could be your target customer. So I want to work with sales teams. I connect with heads of sales, VPs of sales, and big companies that have large sales teams. I find their decision makers. I connect with them, and then quite often after I connect with them, they send me a message saying, I want to learn more about what you do. So the LinkedIn lead generation stack, it involves copywriting. It involves writing a good message to the customer that you want as a client. For me, I'll show you my messaging in a bit, and it's working well for me, and I've got a template. So if you guys want to connect with people on LinkedIn, even if you don't have a business yet, you can start connecting with people in CEOs of businesses, people in tech teams, people in AI, whatever you want. And it's like you can connect. You saw Raymond earlier. He connected with the CEO of a $100 billion company. and he became a lead. And so you can just start connecting with people that run big companies now, and when you want to use your network base, you can just send them a message. Software. So software can kickstart your LinkedIn profile. We're going to talk a bit about it. The problem is it's against LinkedIn's terms of service. So I'm not going to recommend it too much. I usually recommend it to business owners, but I say, look, your LinkedIn account could get banned. So yeah, I'm going to be careful recommending that to you guys. Targeting. LinkedIn's targeting is amazing. If you have Sales Navigator, maybe we'll go through Sales Navigator a bit later. If you have Sales Navigator, you can be really targeted with who you want to connect with. You can find the CEOs of the FTSE 100 companies. You can find people interested in AI, people who teach AI, whatever you want. Find people interested in golf, and I'm going to talk about the LinkedIn targeting in a bit. So really the way LinkedIn works is I connect with 25 to 100 people a day. Once they accept my connection request, I send them a follow-up message saying, would you like to buy my stuff? And it's that simple. It works. If you get it right, you can get a 20% plus response rate. So out of every 10 people you message, you get 2 people coming back saying, I'm interested, tell me more. So on your LinkedIn profile, these 2 pieces of copy should be selling your services. So that's actually my job title on the top. And a lot of people get this wrong. They put their job title on LinkedIn, whereas you want to say exactly what you do, exactly what you're selling, and tell people what to do. You should say, contact me if you want to keep your sales team busy. Your LinkedIn summary should be a word text that sells your service. So, your connection message. The goal of your connection message on LinkedIn is to get as many people as possible connected with you. Don't try selling too much on the connection message, do it on the follow-up. You can actually trick people into thinking that you've done a lot of research on their background. And this is partly what growth hacking is about. It's not unethical, it's just writing your copy in such a way that they think you purposely reached out. Then once they respond back to you, you research their company, you jump on a sales call. But until that point, you need to send out hundreds of LinkedIn messages. And so you've got to find a fast way to automate that. This is my connection message, and you only get 300 characters for this. Otherwise, I'm sure it would be a lot longer. So I find people based in London, and I say, hi, first name. I see you're based in London. Obviously, first name goes to their first name. I think we have connections in common. We work with VPs of sales to get you an extra 10 to 15 sales meetings a week. In brackets, we don't disrupt your current lead generation process. A lot of companies that I reached out to on LinkedIn thought I would mess up their current processes or mess up what their team's already doing. And after I started sending out messages, they sent messages back saying, we don't need this. You're going to mess up our lead generation. And so that's why that's there in the brackets. Lastly, I know we haven't met, but always good to connect with another sales professional like yourself. It sounds a bit cheesy, but it works. And the cheesy stuff seems to work really well in America. I'm not sure why, but Americans are great to connect with on LinkedIn. We've got one American over there, I think.
We have 2 Americans here.
2 Americans, brilliant. So, here is the template that you can all use. I'll make sure Eleanor gets the slides and she can send them out, so you will get this LinkedIn template. To be honest, I think it's going to work. This exact template is going to work for a couple of years to come. And LinkedIn don't tend to change their algorithm much, so it should still be the same network for a while. All right, creating your list. I'm going to leave this for now, or I'm going to go over it quickly rather than the longer version, because we've got a lot to get through. Not sure if you guys can see that, but on these LinkedIn filters, you can filter by location, job title, first name, last name, the school they went to. That's a really interesting one. That's more the university they went to. Industry is a very interesting one as well. So if you want to target a specific industry, you've created the software product for a certain industry, you can target that industry on LinkedIn, you can find the CEOs of these companies, and you can start sending them 25 messages a day. the way you send out 25 LinkedIn messages a day, there are a couple of ways. A lot of my clients use a virtual assistant. So they hire someone in the Philippines or someone in a foreign country to just log into their LinkedIn and send 25 to 100 messages a day. And that's a fast way to do it. That's quite a safe way to do it. LinkedIn are less likely to ban you if you do that. My clients that don't have money to invest in LinkedIn, they log in themselves. So it's hard work initially, and you just log in. Maybe you only message 10 people a day, and they get revenue out of it. They connect with people in their network out of it, and so they just do it manually. The last way is the most likely to get you banned from LinkedIn, but if you're careful, it works, and that's using software. I use software on my own account, but I don't recommend it to my clients because I don't want to get sued. So using software, there's a tool called Linked Helper. You set it up, you put your message in there, it can change the location for you. Get rid of that. You can change the location, so you can make sure it says London, you can make sure it says VPs of sales, and you can write your message, and every day it will just connect to 25 people a day for you. You just need to refresh your browser every now and then. So that's the fastest way to do it. It costs $15 a month. And if you ever run a company or a revenue generating company, then it's well worth the investment because you might meet a $100 billion company after spending $15 a month. Just before you get too excited, it is very rare to meet a $100 billion company without spending a lot of money on marketing and having a sales team. But it does happen with the $15 LinkedIn extension, but not all the time. It depends on your product, it depends on how good your message is, but it does happen. So, I've got a really exciting hack for LinkedIn, which I call the Charlie hack, and it increases the number of leads you get from LinkedIn, it increases the number of sales you get from LinkedIn. I went into LinkedIn and used the name search Charlie, and I messaged everyone and said, hey, you have a great name by the way, to make it look really personalized. And I got the most responses from this campaign than any other campaign I did on LinkedIn. I've considered changing my name on LinkedIn to other names so I can use this for people that I really want to contact. But I don't think I can take it that far. So that was the message I sent out, or one of the messages I sent out. All right, so this is all cold, and I know people, I've taken some slides out, so this one's a bit out of context. I know people that run their business off cold calling. So they just call up people until they get sales meetings. It's very tiring, it does work, it can be, let's say, effective for getting through to the right decision makers, but it's tough. Cold email, again, is very tough, just emailing people out of the blue, because people's inboxes now have 100 spam emails, especially if they're a CEO, everyone's targeting them. Whereas their LinkedIn profile is still uncharted territory. Not many people are using LinkedIn to connect with their potential customers. So what's the catch with LinkedIn? They only really let you send out 25 to 100 connection messages a day. You need to know the limits, and they're always changing. You shouldn't use too much automation software. You need to be careful with it. And it's quite hacky. The automation software is not amazing. Sometimes there's bugs because who's going to set up a LinkedIn automation software company and grow it into a big company? It doesn't really work because LinkedIn start deleting the software. If it gets too popular, then it doesn't work as well as it used to. So I'm going to go over this quickly and then get into the fundamental stuff around marketing and sales, and then we'll get into Q&A. So building a community is one of the best ways to turn your LinkedIn customers into customers for life. I started Traffic and Copy, and it was a Facebook group. Facebook groups are very easy to grow fast. You get a lot of engagement, you build your network quickly, and it's a much better way to spend your time than going to networking events. And so you can send your LinkedIn connections into a Facebook group, and it's just another place to connect with them more. And also I find people are a lot more personal on Facebook, and so you get to know them personally better. Send your prospects a white paper or ebook. This is an ebook I created, How Companies Are Generating 10 plus sales meetings a week without paid advertising. And just by sending that out, I get responses saying, thank you for sending this, we're interested in your services, or just thank you for sending this. previous success stories of using LinkedIn, and I'll get into the fundamental stuff in a bit. Creating a podcast, webinar series, or holding events is one of the highest value ways to use LinkedIn. I did an event at the start of this year, and all I did was take 5,000 people off LinkedIn. I messaged every single one of them. We filled the event with 100, 150 people. And after the event, I got 5 companies with over 100 employees wanting to work with me. So, this is one of my posts on LinkedIn. And if you get onto LinkedIn in the next 12 months, it's very easy to make a post go semi-viral. This post got 50,000 views. On Facebook, I wouldn't be so excited about 146 likes from a post. On Instagram, I don't get excited by 146 likes on a post. But on LinkedIn, 146 likes and 50,000 views to one post is really exciting because everyone either runs a business, is in a high-paying job, and so they're high-value customers and potential customers. All right, cold email guide, I'm going to leave for now because I think the LinkedIn stuff has been very in-depth and I don't want to overwhelm you guys with too much information. Although, I'm just going to show you this. This is one of the first cold emails I sent out when I dislocated my knee in Brazil and I was stuck in my mum's living room. This is just the end of the email, and it's completely different to what most people send out. I've built a lot of my businesses from doing things differently to a lot of other people, and it was just a ridiculous email. I sent a picture of a gerbil wearing a sombrero at the end of the email. And from 150 emails, I got 8 sales meetings with marketing companies. Those were some of the responses I was getting every day when I was sending out an email, like a ridiculous email written like this. All right. So you guys might be doing some emailing to potential customers. Here are a couple of ways to get free data and find people's emails for free. So you can use True People Search. If you Google True People Search, there's a really good piece of software. I don't know how it does it. You can find the name and number and address of people, depending on what you have. If you have their phone number, you can find their name and address. If you have their address, you can find their name and phone number. It's quite scary what you can find on the internet. This is mostly in America, and I don't recommend using this for bad reasons. The reason to use this is if you want to cold call a potential company, or if you want to send a direct mail letter to a company offering your services. If you guys want to send cold emails to customers in bulk, if you want to send 150 cold emails to potential customers, firstly you need to look up the spam laws in the UK and America. They're annoying. If you just Google canned spam laws, you can find them. Google Sheets, just like Excel, Google Sheets has a mail merge add-on, which will let you email 50 people a day, I think, on a free Gmail account. That's really useful. Before any of you send a cold email, if you ever want to get business from cold emails, use this quick mail checklist. You can verify your emails for free using something called Email Hunter, emailhunter.co. And Mail Tester is a great way to test how spammy your emails are. You send an email to Mail Tester, and it will tell you whether you're going to get flagged as spam or whether your email is going to get sent into their inbox. So, whenever you're building a business, or even whenever you're applying for a job, building a business, anything, building your network, connecting with people is the easy part. The hard part is following up. The hard part is responding to people quickly. And there was some research done that if a company messages you saying, I want you to work for me, I want you to work with me, you're 100 times less likely to get that business if you respond half an hour later. If you respond within the first 5 minutes, you're much more likely to get that business. If you respond in half an hour, you're 100 times less likely to close that business, get that job, or get that potential client. So, although running a business, you can take some time off. I can go kite surfing. If a lead messages me when I'm kite surfing, chances are I'm going to lose that lead because I messaged them back 2 hours later. There's some really interesting potential AI ideas when it comes to this. if you can create an AI software company, some kind of AI, that when a lead messages you, you can respond back within 5 minutes using an automated message that doesn't look automated, then you're much more likely to get clients. You're going to help businesses make a lot more money if you can set up an AI platform that could do this. There's already a couple out there, but I don't think the market's been taken yet. So yeah, just to give you an idea of how this all fits in. So the faster you respond, the better your chances are of making a sale in business. So I've shown you guys how to generate leads, and you guys will want to see the slides. Keep the slides for future reference whenever you want to start a business, do anything like that. And it's going to help you get leads and potentially help you get sales. But that's not all to growing a business. Just getting money in the door is not going to do it for you. It's good short term, but long term, it takes a hell of a lot of work. It takes really developing sales skills, and it involves creating a really good product. So, I don't know, how are we going for time?
We're fine, actually. I mean, if you still have 10 minutes, but you could take another 15 minutes if you want. 15, 20 minutes maximum. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
All right, I'm going to get through this quite quickly again, and then go on to Q&A and talk more about AI and lead generation for you guys. So, has anyone here ever studied sales? Interesting. Has anyone here ever studied copywriting? And has anyone here ever studied AI? just catching you all out. All right. So, if you guys want to grow a business in the future, if you guys want to get a great job in AI in the future, then studying sales is going to be really useful for you all. It's not really Wolf of Wall Street type stuff. I've never hired anyone that's given me the Wolf of Wall Street type sales pitch. That does work, potentially with consumers, potentially with buyers that don't know what they're buying. Like if you're cold calling people trying to get an investment off the phone, Wolf of Wall Street stuff can still work, but they still need to make 200 calls before they get one sale. People buy from you before your product. So even if you've got the best product in the world.
Just wanted to check, does anybody know what Wolf of Wall Street mean? Yeah?
Who doesn't know the film The Wolf of Wall Street? Or who
It's
does
a bad movie with bad words.
Yeah? What's it? Can you explain? You seem to be one of the few. I like it.
No. I was movie, but I think it
Yeah.
just means
What
like
does it mean?
a really hustling salesperson.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Is he right? Okay.
Bovine
I just want to make sure
excrement.
everyone knows what we're talking about.
The Wolf of Wall Street is a salesperson that scammed people on Wall Street, pretending that he had a really good investment strategy when really he had nothing. It was all a fake.
Yeah.
They have a sales script, so it's actually a film. It's a film and a book. They have a sales script, and it's ridiculous. It doesn't work anymore, or it doesn't work like it used to. And even if it did, you're getting the wrong type of customer if you use it. Yeah, the only time you really want to use it is if you're scamming people, so that's not really ideal. So people buy from you before your product. I get a lot more sales from the people that I talk to every day because I want to talk to them. And so surrounding yourself with a group of people in business, in AI, whatever your business is in the future, of people that you get along with is much more important than surrounding yourself with high-level, big CEOs. So there's always a group of people that are successful that you will get along with. Some business CEOs are very serious. That's definitely not me. I send out emails with gerbils wearing sombreros. So some people in business are very chilled. Some people are too chilled. Some people are, I don't know, some people like kite surfing. So this kite surfing entrepreneur very well with kite surfing entrepreneurs, and I get more business from them than I do just regular entrepreneurs in London kind of thing. So people buy from you before your product. And so I'm 22 now, and I wish I started learning sales techniques 5-10 years ago. I know 10 years ago would be a bit long ago, but still, I wish I started learning how to conduct a presentation, how to conduct a sales call. It all seems boring when you're young, but when you get older, when you realize it will make you more money, you can build a bigger business, you can build a better business, it got a lot more interesting to me. There's something to do with time here. So the more time that you spend learning your sales skills, learning your people skills, the better you'll be at it. It doesn't matter if you spend a month reading and training sales 10 hours a day, you're not going to be as good as if you spend 3 years learning sales stuff as you go along. And so whatever you guys want to do in future, really consider developing your sales skills. It seems like most of you have got AI down. AI is sounds like you're all pretty advanced when it comes to that, or you will be good at AI stuff as you get older if you're starting now. And so sales is a really good skill for you guys to all think about. Sales is never easy. I have a lot of friends that run companies, and maybe I've been in their office at a certain time, or they're quite honest with me of how it's going. And quite often I get this: we've lowered the price of our product and we still can't sell it. We've made it £10 instead of £1,000 and we're selling less. We used to sell 2 a month, now we're selling none. It's really weird that when you lower a product in price, sometimes it's just as hard to sell or even harder to sell. So they're selling something that costs £100 to a business that's making £1 million a year. Why would they care about it? But quite often the business owner just wants to know everything about it. They'll jump on the phone with you to sell a £100 product. You've got to pay your sales team, you've got to pay for your office space, you've got to pay yourself, and that £100 product is not going to cover all of those expenses. And so, especially when you're selling to businesses, going cheap is not always the way to go. It can still be hard to sell. That doesn't mean you can be as expensive as you want, but going too cheap is definitely a huge problem. Expensive products. So just saying that, you might think, well, I'll sell something really expensive, and if I get 2 sales a month, then great. The problem with expensive products is you need to target big companies. Big companies are a real ball ache to get through to. They have a lot of bureaucracy, they have a lot of decision makers. You have to sell to the CEO, the vice president of whatever part of the organization you're targeting. You also need to sell to the end user, the marketing executives that are going to be using your piece of software. And so you've got to sell to 3, 5, 10 people inside an organization, and quite often they're dinosaurs. And so when you get to really expensive pieces of software that cost more than £100,000 a year, it can take 1 to 2 years to get a new client. If you're lucky, it will take 3 to 6 months, but it will take 1 to 2 years, and you've got to send them financial projections, you've got to send them a lot of different things before they'll work with you. If you're trying to work with really big corporate companies as well, they might not work with you unless your company is 3 years old or older. So that's a really annoying thing to think about. That being said, I do believe that if you want to start a software company, setting up a piece of software that really increases the revenue for a corporate, saves time for a corporate, and can generate them more than £100,000 a year, it's a really good way to go. It only takes a couple of clients and you're at £500,000 revenue every year. Sales isn't everything. So you might think that if you get really good at sales, then you're going to be fine for the rest of your life. You will be, you'll be able to get by, but really sales is just a part of the whole business structure. Branding, marketing, networking, product reviews. If your product or service has good reviews, then you'll get customers a lot faster, and having a good product are just as important. So if I could recommend one sales book, it's Pitch Anything by Acorn Aspirations. And copywriting. For those of you that don't like sales, firstly, I still recommend learning sales, because even if you learn sales, it will make you a better writer, and you will understand human psychology to the point that it can help you with your AI as well. But you can get sales without ever having to jump on a phone call with someone. And typically these are lower cost sales. Maybe these are consumer products, so they're fitness products, trainers, Someone like Nike gets a lot of sales. They don't have a sales team that's taking a phone call from every customer. But they still have the option. If you want to call up Nike sales team or Nike customer support and ask them a question about one of their products. So you can get sales without ever having to jump on a sales call, but it's very hard. Anyways, the way you get sales without jumping on the phone is with copywriting. Without copywriting, you can't get any sales. If you don't have a good product description, good marketing material, a good landing page, you're going to get stuck. And I want to show you just how odd copywriting is. Before I get into it, there are two kinds of copywriting. Content copywriting, which is social media content, so Instagram posts, Facebook posts, blog posts, not always social media, or email newsletters, and sales copy. The goal of sales copy is to get people to read a page of copy that you've written and to get a response from them, to get a sale, to get them to fill in a form, to get them to jump on a phone call with you, whatever it is. So, how to get more sales with copy? You need to write very simply. A lot of you will have been brainwashed by English teachers, and you can't let this translate into your sales copy. Sales copy should be about a 5th grade level, and it could even be lower than that. The simpler you write, the more sales you can get. If a sentence has more than 18 words, it's really hard to understand. You guys are going to find this really hard to comprehend, because I imagine you focus on AI, you read a lot, you read these big, complex, books, reviews, blog posts on AI, they're very wordy. But the average person will lose interest if you've got these long blocks of text. Even if you lose 5% of your sales because your sentences are too long, that's going to cost you a lot of money. So forget your English teacher temporarily. For sales copy, it does help. All right, copywriting is extremely simple, but it definitely takes a long time to master. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples where copy has increased the sales for a couple of businesses, and you guys are going to help me guess which bit of copy is better or worse. So, weird examples that have increased sales. This is a headline for English learning course. Do you make these mistakes in English? I just tripped up with an English mistake reading that. So, do you make these mistakes in English, or B, the man who simplified English? Which one do you think got more sales? Put your hand up if you think A got more sales. And then put your hand up if you think B got more sales. All right, for those of you that think A, you're right. And I think it's because the headline is in the form of a question, and it's easier to read, it's easier to understand. For a different audience, B could work. Copywriting is not universal, sadly. The skills of being a good copywriter are universal, but if they were selling a course on how to become an Instagram influencer, B could have been more successful. You never know. You always have to test these things. So A actually got 300% more sales than B in this case. That's a couple of words to get triple the amount of sales, or 1.5 the amount of sales, depending on how they worked out the percentage. So this is a Facebook ad. I recently interviewed Drayton Bird. That's why I brought up this example. The Facebook ad said something along the lines of, come to this event with Drayton Bird, or come to the Drayton Bird's last marketing event. Put your hand up if you think A, putting his name in lowercase got more sales. And put your hand up if you think B got more sales because his name is spelled correctly. When he spelled his name wrong, he got more sales. It's a really weird thing, but he spelled his name without proper English and he got more sales. So you can't always trust your English teacher when it comes to sales copy. Lastly, this is an interesting one. A, 51 free helpful marketing ideas. Someone gives away 51 free helpful marketing ideas, and they tested giving away 101 free marketing ideas. Put your hand up if you think A got more signups. And put your hand up if you think B got more signups. Obviously, for those of you that have worked it out, it's a trick question, and A was the correct one. giving away 51 free helpful marketing ideas was much more popular than 101 free helpful marketing ideas. I think it was 33 or 48% better to use A than B. So copywriting really is weird, and the more you test, the more you know. And you can never trust your instinct when it comes to copywriting. You can learn the fundamentals, you can read the books, you can learn everything, but until you test it, stuff will get wrong. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Go for it.
But why though? Like, why is that more helpful?
It's actually, I would say it's less helpful.
Like, I mean, like, why does it get
Less-
itself?
Well,
And
when I
understand
saw that
why.
YouTube video,
Brilliant.
I never have to remember.
So, what I think happened is, in general, people don't read into things too much. When you're reading a blog post, you're not necessarily that conscious of the marketing material being sent to you. Quite often, again, it's going to be quite hard for you guys to understand. I'm quite analytical, and I imagine a lot of you are analytical. And so you see it and you're like, what the hell? How does that work? And when people read your website, they're not thinking that much. They're just reading it subconsciously, and maybe it was just easier to read. Maybe 101 free marketing ideas doesn't.
Too much.
Yeah, it could be too much even. This is a tough one to explain. The one before, it's slightly simpler because Drayton Bird in lowercase fits more nicely into the ad. The first one makes sense because it's a question, and questions engage people more than not having a question. But sometimes it doesn't make sense. Oh, we've gone too far. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. It could be because people went, 101 is too many ideas, I'm never going to read all of those. But that was a subconscious thought. Someone didn't read that and go, 101 is too much. What happened is their brain, without them knowing, thought that 101 was too much. In most cases. There'll be 10 or 20 people that went, I don't want 101 free marketing ideas. But there'll be 1,000 people who are reading it and they scrolled past it. They didn't think about it ever again. They didn't think about it when they read it. It just didn't get their attention, even though their brain spent some attention on it. Yeah, go on, questions. If you have any questions about the copy, let's do that now. Go for it.
I'm really confused about the last one. Like, what do you mean?
Okay.
I chose the 51. Like, I thought it would be 51, but I don't get why.
All right. Maybe. I would imagine it's a blend of a lot of things. If I gave you a 51-page book,
Yeah.
you might read it because it looks small.
Yeah.
If I gave you a 101-page book, there's a small chance you might put it on your shelf for the rest of your life and never touch it. There's some interesting things when it comes to copy, and really it's a case of find out what works, create the rule from it, and then work backwards from there. So the ultimate answer for this one is no one knows exactly why 51 would be better than 101. There's a lot of reasons. I can tell you a couple of reasons in marketing why it might work, but it's not. It's a blend of things.
Let's go through the
Does
rest
that help
and then
much?
maybe, yeah.
That's all of them. That's the
That's
three
it?
that I got. Yeah, those are the three.
Okay.
When it comes to copywriting, so I wanted you guys to know the importance of copywriting, and this is crazy to me. There was a copywriter in 1908 who wrote ads for a healthcare company. So he was paid $185,000 a year to write copy in 1908. So he would do stuff like this, but most likely in 1908 it'd be newspaper advertising and billboard advertising. Potentially radio, I'm not sure when the radio came about. He was paid $185,000 a year. In today's money, that's $4.5 million a year. And so learning what makes people tick, learning how to get more sales just using words is a very lucrative place to be. And I started off as a copywriter before I got into this LinkedIn growth hacking stuff. And I knew I was more analytical, but I wanted to learn copy because it would help any business that I wanted to start in the future. So this is scientific advertising. This guy that earned $185,000 a year in marketing wrote it, and it's one of the best direct response copywriting books you can get. So that's definitely worth a read. All right, networking. I'm going to go through these last ones relatively quickly. I spent 3 months networking in London once. So I stopped doing LinkedIn stuff, I stopped doing Facebook stuff, or I did it a lot less. And I went to every single networking event I could in London. There's a lot of free networking events, and it was a complete waste of time. In those 3 months, from the people I've met from networking events, I maybe earned less than minimum wage. And then the second I got back into LinkedIn and Facebook and my email list, I started making a lot more sales. It was a big mistake on my part to keep testing this for 3 months, but I really got a bit fed up with my computer, and this was a long time ago now, and so I've learned my lesson. The second you realize something's not working, especially a marketing channel, then I would change it in a big way or move back to what was working. So since then, I have found a way to network that works, and it's hosting your own events. It's going to expensive events, so spending the money to go to an event to meet higher quality people. Or it's hosting a party, it's hosting a barbecue, whatever it is. I've never really been the person to set up events, but when I realized how much it worked for my business, I just did it. I still hate event planning. I'd rather stick a needle through my eye, but it works so well that I just do it. Time creates trust. So when you first get into the business world, when I did those 3 months in London networking, I've never lived in London before, and I didn't really get much business out of it. But after a year or two of going to those networking events, it did pay off. And I didn't do anything special. I didn't help these people in any way. They just contacted me in a year or two, or when we met in a year or two, they trusted me a lot more. There's something about being the new person to an industry where people can kind of sense it. People have never seen your face before, and so they don't trust you when they first meet you. Enthusiasm is key, and if you struggle with sales, if you struggle with copy, if you struggle with business, then just being enthusiastic is enough to get people to help you. And so my mentors that helped me with copywriting and LinkedIn helped me because I was enthusiastic and they liked what I was doing, not because I was a good copywriter necessarily. And just lastly, staying in touch with 10 crucial people or 10 very important people that you get along with will get you a lot more business than knowing 10,000 people. And so I've got my Facebook group, Traffic and Copy. I have 11,500 people in there. We used to have 25,000 people. We deleted half of the people out to make it a more exclusive group. And even then, the 10 people in my close network get me more business and help me more than the 11,500 people in Traffic and Copy. Networking, read this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And hard work. If you want to build a business yourself, you need to be willing to put in the hard work. You can raise investment, I decided not to, and so it means you need to put in work to get to that point where other companies can get with investment. I didn't want any co-founders, I wanted to travel the world. I do have a co-founder, but that's for a separate business. And so I really had to put in the work, and it's a painful process, but it's a lot better than getting a 9-to-5 job in an office, in my opinion. And after a couple of years, it gets a lot easier. Something you guys will want to work out early. Are you an employee or a founder? Or more in detail, do you want to be the person that starts the company? Or do you want to be the person that comes to the company as the second or third employee? If you come as the second or third employee, it means you can just focus on what you love. You can focus a lot more on just AI, improving the product, and someone else can take on the sales. Someone else can take on the management for you. And so you can work that out early. If you want to be the founder, then you'll either need to find a co-founder to do the sales, do the networking, or you'll need to raise investment, or you'll need to do it yourself. You'll need to do the sales, networking yourself. You have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. I wasn't naturally good at sales. I wasn't naturally good at speaking on a stage, and I just had to push and push and push. And over the course of 2 years, I could do it. So you've really got to decide, do you want the job? Do you want to be the first or second employee at a company, or do you want to be the founder? So there's a lot of stuff out there about working on your passion, and I found it very painful. So when I was kite surfing, or when I was started kite surfing at 16, 17, I thought, I'm going to make money from kite surfing. I became a kite surfing instructor. I thought I was going to do that instead of go to university, and I absolutely hated it because I had to teach I was in this touristy area, and no one could pick up kite surfing in a week. It was really weird. I hated it. And when I started copywriting, and I ran an e-commerce business, when I worked on my e-commerce business and kite surfed when I had free time, I much preferred that. And so bringing my head, what I like about LinkedIn and technical stuff plus business was a lot more fun, a lot more profitable than trying to make money from kite surfing. So that's something to think about for you guys. What kind of business do you want to start? And lastly, or coming up to lastly, build your business for the long term. If you're going to create an AI startup, don't create it on the back of something else, because you're building your startup on someone else's land. They could kick you off anytime. If you build an AI startup that integrates with Facebook, there's a chance that Facebook can just delete your app. And so if you want to run a company for the next 5 to 10 years, if you want to make money and hold on to it, then you're much better off creating a startup that's independent, that's unique. There are some edge cases where there's some platforms that run on Skype and other video conferencing platforms. There's some LinkedIn tools that have grown and become their own companies, but ultimately they make enough revenue and then they start their own thing separate from LinkedIn or separate from Facebook, because Facebook don't like other businesses growing on their platform. If you look at Snapchat a couple of years ago was, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, was really pushing to become one of the biggest social media platforms. After Facebook and Instagram launched stories, the growth just was nothing like it was before Facebook and Instagram released that. Facebook are highly competitive, the big companies are highly competitive, and so you don't want to build your startup on their land. Know when to change direction. When I was about 17, I started a kite surfing blog that I wanted to succeed, and it went nowhere. And the second I started taking on freelance copywriting clients and focusing on my e-commerce business, it worked a lot better. Most of the money I've not made, so most of the time I've wasted not making money, has been when I've been stuck in my ways, when I've been networking in London for 3 months, when instead I should have been building a business on LinkedIn. So how did I get to where I am today? Working hard, learning skills that I'm bad at, creating a business that I'm good at, and starting early. And if I was going to add something to working hard, the first 2 years of copywriting and running my business, I just had some days, I had a lot of days where I wanted to give up, a lot of days where I was just sitting in front of my computer and just had no idea what I was doing, kind of thing. I didn't know how to, let's say, hold an event, or I did my first webinar, and all of this stuff, I just had no idea what I was doing when I first did it, and then it just took pushing myself through it before I learned how to do it. It took some 16-hour days, some nights of 3 hours sleep, and to be honest, those sleepless nights were unnecessary. If I'd built my business in the right way, I could have got away with working 9 to 5 and still being where I am today. But you get stuff wrong, and sometimes you've got to fix that with long nights. So I'm going to say the biggest mistakes I've made: focusing on something for too long, learning people skills a little too late. So I probably learned them at 19, 20, because I spent 16, 17 working on my e-commerce business. 5 industries, technologies and platforms I'm excited about are AI, esports, podcasts, LinkedIn, and virtual reality. And I think they're going to be huge in the next 5 years. And you'll notice all of them, apart from LinkedIn, are a business in themselves. They could be a business in themselves. That's why I wrote in esports instead of Twitch. You're not building your business on someone else's ground if you start a business in these areas, apart from LinkedIn and apart from Twitch. So that's just something interesting for you guys to know.